Yo, what's going on, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today, I hope we are able to turn the car over. I just got to do the wiring at the ECU side inside the cabin, and that's not a big issue at all. Like, I can do that with my eyes closed. So, all I gotta do is button up the wiring, and I'm gonna go to Home Depot in just a minute here. But first, I gotta go to Compliance Store and get a pulley for the dryer, because the dryer has been out for 2 days, and yesterday they were closed. So I need to go get this tensioner pulley right here, or the whole unit if they have it for my model, and then we'll come back, fix the dryer really quickly, and then, like I said, I should be heading to Home Depot after that. Definitely want to button the car up today and get it back on the ground and first drive. $26 and online is $25, so awesome that the price is within my pocket affordability. This right here is the belt tensioner, and this is the new unit, and this is the old unit. You can see that the shaft is missing a chunk because of how long my family has used this dryer with this bad pulley spacer bearing thing right here. You can see it is completely gone. All right, let's test this out. Plugged in. And I spoke to the guy at the store, and he was like, yeah, this newer model has like a tensioner switch. So I originally thought the motor was bad because I plugged it up and it wouldn't spin. But then when I took off the pulley, there was a switch in the bottom, so oh, okay, we're good. Threw my clothes in the laundry before somebody else tried to swoop up on me after I fixed it. And I don't even have a shirt on because all my clothes is in the laundry. No. So, just got back from Home Depot again. And forgot the vent earlier when I went this morning, and the dryer works. So I'm gonna hook it up so I can dry my clothes. And just came back from Costco as well. Mel got that 48 pack, and I got a whole cooler full of water, aloe vera, Dr. Pepper, and some other things. So, whew, I'm gonna get this all hooked up, and then we're gonna move into the car and do the dual point to multi-point conversion, so that way we can get this car further, being closer to firing over. And hope you guys are excited as I am. So, where's my dog at? Leave my dog. Hey, Memo, I got a surprise for you, Memo. When I converted the harness to multi-point injection, I added a plug for the 2 injectors and 2 crank that's supposed to be wired into the ECU, and I didn't have the female end of it, so I went to the junkyard and I snagged off a Honda Accord, a CB7, or not the CB7, the 94 Plus, and I believe this is like the cruise control switch or something. It's the same plug as the 4-wire O2 sensor for OBD1 and OBD2, I think, but I snagged 2 of these so I can have extra. But here is the wires extended, and then over here integrated into the harness like the CRX and Hatch SI. They have these plug right here. So I have this other end extended, color coordinated. So these 2 right here, A3 and A7, this is for injectors. What is it? Injectors 1 and 3, but on angelfire.com they read it as 1, 2, 3, 4. So technically it's these 2 right here that you have to run to the ECU, and these right here for injectors, because I'm going to lume it up and I want to make sure that I know what these colors are supposed to be, where they're supposed to be going. And then the other 2 is supposed to be blue green and blue yellow for the crank. Given that I only have blue yellow and I don't have a blue green, I use a green blue instead. But as long as I can determine the two wires and their functions, I'm cool with that. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to loom this up really nice and clean, and then I'm going to feed it through, I believe, the AC hole, since there's already a hole there, and then I'm going to move into the cabin and start wiring up these suckers. So I was reading the comments on the save the sock video on my phone right now, because I get push notification, and a lot of people were like, oh, you know, this guy stays wearing a beanie in a hot ass day. Honestly, I've been wearing beanies since I was a kid, and like, one reason why I always wear a beanie is because I like to keep my hair slicked back. Because if you guys see like the end of my video when I'm like pushing hella hard work on the cars or rolling around the floor and stuff, my hair would be like this, like Medusa. So I wear a beanie to keep my hair slicked back, keep it from dragging all over the floor. When I'm under the car, I get my hair, tuck it under my shirt, stuff like that. And I'm just so used to having a beanie on my head, whether it's cold, hot, or whatever the case may be. I just always wear a beanie, except right now because it was freaking hot and I was sweating into my beanie, and no bueno way. So I haven't got to the wiring yet, but I did feed those 4 wire into the passenger footwell, and right here is a Faradable, or yeah, it's a Faradable OBD0 to OBD1 jumper harness. It's like riot wire. I'm not 100% sure, but pretty sure it's Faradable because I bought this same exact one years and years ago for my EF sedan. So because when he bought the swap from Paco only had this but not the sub harness section, and given that this ECU has knock sensor, VTEC pressure switch, and all that bypass, and the only thing we need is VTEC, I'm only running 1 wire on the red right here, which goes to A17, I believe, and then the blue and orange I'm gonna run it to a switch, because this is this is how you're gonna check your check engine light when you have a cell come on. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hot glue right here and right here to make sure these pins don't back out, and then I'm gonna run this one into the engine bay, cut it to length, and then put a butt connector on it so that way it'd be disconnect up in the front, and then we'll do the multi-point wire portion. Also, I want to quickly mention, when you're doing the dual point to multi-point conversion, slots B10 and B12 on the OBD0 ECU side may or may not have a pin in it. I believe B10 may have it in there or not, but if there is a pin, you can use it. If there is not, what I did was I went to the junkyard, found an EF or DA, cut the B and C plugs off, and then D-pin pretty much all of these extra pins for when I used to make conversion harnesses and sell. I used to have these go with the harness, so that way the customer could just have a pin to plug in, and then I keep a bunch of them at home for when I do stuff like this for customers. So I got a pin here for B10, or actually B12, and then if B10 doesn't have one, I'll put one in there as well. All right, first things first, get your razor blade. You want to take off the sleeve off plug B and C, probably about like 2 inches back. Be careful to not splice into the wire. Do it with cautious if you're using a sharp razor blade like mine. Here we had just stripped B, and then that right here is C. Man, I hope you guys can see this. So I'm gonna start off with the A plug right here, and if you guys remember the sub harness that I made from the engine bay into the compartment right here, we have the yellow, red, the blue, yellow, and blue, green, and yellow and red is going to be going to the plug A, and these are color coordinated. So the yellow is the injector number, if you're reading correctly from the crank, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4. So this will be injector number 3, and it goes to slot A3. And reading from the ECU side, so imagine the ECU being over here, the plug A plugs in like that. You're reading it top to bottom, left to right. So this would be 1, 2, and 3. This is injector number 3, yellow wire. So right here at this yellow wire, there's 2 of them. A3, I'm gonna snip about 1.5 inches, and then I'm gonna wire this yellow wire to the ECU side, the pin side. So snip, wire in right there. I'm gonna do that really quickly. That is A3. The next wire we're gonna do is the red wire, which again, if you're reading correctly from the crank, injector number 1, and this goes to pin A7. So I'm gonna read it again right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Top row, 4th slot over. That is gonna be my injector number 1. There you have it, your injectors for plug A. It's done. Now we can set those aside. We'll move on to plug B and C. These two black plugs right here, there's a big one and a small one. The C is the smaller one. C1 and C2, which is an orange wire right here, and C2, a white wire right there. What you gotta do is you gotta cut this about 1.5 inches as well, because you're going to be wiring in the 2 crank wires, the blue, yellow, blue, green, into these suckers, and then the other end of the C1 and C2, you're going to have to splice the loom here so we can bring this 2 wires further out and transfer them over to B10 and B12. So let me show you B10 and B12 real quick, whether it has pins or not. But first you got to take off this little retaining clip right here, and it's pretty much just pinched, so you got to like unpinch it right there, and then you got to unpinch the other side, or unclip it, however you want to say it, and then boom. So now again, imagine the ECU plug being in place. Count the slots, 10 and 12. Sorry, this is upside down, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So B10 is an empty slot right there, and then B12, so 10, 11, 12 is this white with the red stripe. So once we cut this wire right here, because it has a pin in it, we're going to give it a new function. So we're not worried about what it does on the other end of that wire, but we're going to cut this guy and then wire in the white C2 wire. So for the B10, given that it's an empty slot, that's where this extra pin right here comes in. So look at the formation, whichever way it's supposed to go in, and then pin it in there. So pin goes in. I'm gonna use my razor blade to kind of really tap it down there, and then you take the retaining clip, you reinstall it, because this right here will make sure that all of these pins won't back out. Push it down. So now we have a pin in B10, and we have a pin for B12. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna trim down B12 as far back as possible, just so we have extra wire. We'll snip it right there, and then given that these 2 wires are gonna be the same length, I'm gonna trim the B10 to the same length. Strip it down, both wires, and then ready for the next step right here. And then I'm going to cut C1 and C2 orange and white, 1.5 inches or so, give or take, about there. And then I'm going to splice all 4 of these. So the write-up says you got to move the orange wire harness side right here, and move that orange wire to slot B10 right here, the pin that we just installed. So I'm gonna put the orange to B10, solder it up, and then we're gonna move C2, white wire right here, to slot B12. So now we have 2 wires left on plug C, and these are gonna be the new crank wires. Pin C1, orange wire, is going to go to the blue-green wire from the sub-harness coming from the engine bay, and that is going to be this guy right here. So we're going to twist these together and shrink these as well. I'm going to wire in C2, white wire right here, which then goes to the blue-yellow other crank wire at the distributor. Let's get this all buttoned up, guys. And there you have it. 2 wires for injectors, which are the 2 new ones you just added to the harness. You got 2 new crank wires right here. And then we transferred C1 and C2 to B10 and B12. And that is all for the ECU plug. So here we have our OBD0 to OBD1 jumper. Here we have our cell switch, and then this guy right here goes into the engine bay for the VTEC solenoid. I'm gonna plug it up, double check the engine bay, and maybe we can try to start it. Oil is up to par, and like I said, I'm gonna cycle this old new oil before I put the new oil in. No coolant. I just want to make sure everything turns on, check for leaks and everything, and then once we're good there, I'm gonna fill it up. Then we can let the car run and then bleed it out. Batteries installed, and all that is left is lights are on. Stick that right there. I'm gonna prime it, check for fuel leaks. It's definitely priming. I can hear it. I can hear it in the lines. No leaks. All right, let's do this. Maybe the switch is on. Yep. Neutral, no clutch. That has a check engine light. Let's send it. Oh, a lot of vibration. Holy shit. Headlights vibrating like a motherfucker. Hey guys, it's alive. Boy, have I been battling a bunch of freaking check engine lights. So on my phone here, I don't know if you guys can see it, I got VTEC, which was wired in the wrong spot, my fault. Code 9 for CYP sensor, code 3 for map sensor, code 4 for crank position. So the crank position, I swapped the wires around on the crank and I got rid of that. The code 3 map sensor, my sub harness extension was one was loose, which I repinned, got rid of that code. And then VTEC was A4, and I pinned it on the wrong plug on the sub harness part, which was my fault, which I fixed, and we got rid of that. But the code that I still have is code 9 CYP sensor. I double checked all the wirings and I pinned it with the multimeter from the distributor all the way back to the ECU, and I don't know what's wrong with it, but the car turns on and everything like it should, sounds good and everything. It doesn't chop in RPMs. But one of the issue that I had earlier, the battery in? Oh, okay. So anyways, right, let me turn the car on real quick. Right, cool. And then when I turn the car off, the ignition won't allow you to remove your key. And then I kept hearing this clicking noise. You hear it right there? So I sat here for a good, like, what, 45 fucking minutes figuring out this shit. And then it clicked to me, like, the car has to be in parked when it was automatic to allow you to remove your key, and that applies to any car. It has to be in park. And I did some reading online, and people were having issues with this right here after doing auto to manual. And then I read for the EF write-up, there's this little blue box in the back, and what you got to do is, this is the ignition interlock box or something, and what you got to do is unplug it. And according to the write-up, it says remove the 10mm bolt and chuck that shit in the trash can, because you won't be needing it anymore. So there, I just removed it, the plug, and that will allow me to remove the key. Pretty much disengages that clutch interlock system built into this key cylinder and lets me take out the key. So we're squared up with that. Engine is idling. Heater is on full blast, full hot. Coolant fill neck has electrical tape on it, so it's like stuck up in that radiator neck. And then I clamped off the reservoir, so that way no coolant goes over there until the system is fully burped out. It's almost there. It's been idling for about 10 minutes now, and once that is squared up, we ain't got no leaks whatsoever. All right guys, so I got all the tools put away and you know, my stuff cleaned up right here. I'm gonna take the car for a spin really quickly around the block. I'm not gonna take you along with me because it's too dark to show you anyways. But the car's back in the ground. The hood is slammed shut, and I'm gonna need assist tomorrow to reopen it because if you guys know, EF B series Hasbro motor mounts makes the engine sit really high, so the valve cover is actually like compressed with the hood. So I'm gonna take the car for a spin real quick. We'll come back and we'll talk about what to expect tomorrow. So let's go for a spin. I'm excited. And we are back. I just driven the car like 7 miles, and I must say, this shit is torquing. I'm not gonna lie, it brings back a lot of memories driving this thing. Anyways, so today was supposed to be a button-up video type of day, but I spent more time like fighting all the check engine lights and stuff. So I just got the car drivable today. I drove it around. It felt good. There's a lot of heat coming into the cabin because of the holes at the center console tunnel. And I'm gonna have to like somehow duck it up or something, or duct tape it or something to prevent that. But tomorrow's gonna be a button-up type of day. Like I said, we still got to change out the oil. I'm gonna modify the hood a little bit so it'll not mess up the wrinkle on the valve cover. And then I got to fit up the intake arm and box, and then we got to modify the breather into a catch can, or a catch can into a breather / catch can. I don't know. We're gonna have to do something with the breather system. And then I'm going to jack it up one more time, double check all the suspension, even though I didn't touch much of it. But I want to make sure, I'm going to put all my might into it to make sure the bolts aren't going to back out. Because I do feel like a little bit of rattling on the passenger side. Maybe I'm just tripping because the car is like ultra quiet. But nonetheless, the car drove amazing. And yeah, tomorrow when we're squared up with the car, we'll take it out for a drive in the daytime so we can kind of show you the drivability, the sound of the car, how quiet it is, pretty much all around before I return it back to my buddy Eric. And with that being said, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I hope you enjoyed the clip that you're about to see.